First time I saw Sarah, we were in Nashville at one of my brother's friends' going away party. He was going into the Coast Guards, I believe.
He was actually the last person that I had talked to that entire night. I didn't know anyone. It was right when I had moved back to Nashville after having gone to school in Arkansas, and he was the very, very last person that I met, and he asked for my phone number, and I gave it to him, and he told me later that was the first time he'd ever asked for someone's phone number. I think that was probably the first time I'd ever given mine out to, so it worked out pretty nicely, I'd say.
I wasn't expecting anything, didn't think anything of it. After I saw her, we had normal conversations, and then it just kind of took off from there, I guess.
Well, the first phone call, I was surprised that he had called. I wasn't expecting to hear from him quite so soon. He had called actually the next day. So, and he doesn't talk a whole lot when you first get to know him, so some of our first phone calls were quite quiet, if you'd say that, but over time he opened up a little bit more. Our first date would have been, I had stayed up pretty much the whole night before and gone to work a full day at my internship. Yeah. And Jeramy had just gotten his wisdom teeth taken out, and he was wanting to hang out before he went back to school. And we got Maggie Moo's milkshakes, and we're supposed to have watched an Astros game. I fell asleep, and he watched the Astros game.
Yeah, by myself. It was okay, because it was just our first date. I knew there'd be more.
So I was really embarrassed, but I could not stay awake, so.
It worked out.
We have had, for the most part, I guess a long-distance relationship between him going to school at Cleveland State, me being in Memphis for working as a first job, and stressful is probably the only word I could say, because you want to spend more time with each other, but driving to and from, you get really worn out. So it definitely tests your character and your patience with each other, and just your dedication to that relationship.
The first time I met her family, her brother came down the stairs wearing a ski mask, like ski goggles, and I think he had a baseball bat or something else in his hand. And he said something of the nature of, like he tried to scare me or said boo or something, and I just kind of looked at him and kind of just shrugged my shoulders and laughed a little bit. And then Sarah told me after I left that he told her that he thinks that I'm a fit or something, because that I was normal. I fit into the atmosphere, I guess. We went to Louisiana, and I told her before we went, I said, it's a different atmosphere than you're used to, and she went into it with just the brightest smile and outgoing to everybody, and did a great job, I think, because for me, an outsider coming into the family is hard for people, but she did a great job and passed with an A.
They're so welcoming and so loving. I had no doubts that that would be a very, very loving family to come into. I admire many characteristics about Jeramy. Probably the first would be his patience. He is extremely patient.
She gives 110% everything she does, expects me also to give 110%. So that, I mean, that keeps me driving and keeps me going. And just her love for everything that she does, for her family, even my family now. I think I realized she was the one when I didn't want to do anything else but talk to her. My friends would go do things, and I would rather just be there, talk to her, or even drive back to Nashville and see her. Or there's just an empty feeling when I wasn't close to her or on the phone with her. I decided to come from school going to Memphis. It was on her birthday, and I had gotten the ring and was heading there, and she had asked me, she said, "You're not gonna propose on my birthday like everybody else, right?" I said, "No, I'm not gonna do it. It'll be something special." Well, I get there on August 8th, and I walk in the door, and maybe 20 minutes, I was sweating and was nervous and couldn't, like, my hands were trembling. I couldn't, it was just, I had to do it then. So we were in the kitchen. Actually, I think she was facing away from me at the time, and I kind of like tapped her on the shoulder, and she turned around. I think the first words she said after I went down to my knee was, "You're not doing it here, are you?" And I said, "Yeah, I am," and I told her how much I love her, and
I don't think I said that.
she's the only person I want to be with. And I went down to a knee and opened the box, and as I opened the box, the ring fell out onto the floor. And after I picked up the ring and I put it on her finger, she said yes.
I think I asked, "Are you serious?"
Yeah, it was, "Are you serious?" There was something to the effect of, "Now."
I didn't say now. I said, "Are you serious?" He was serious.
Yeah.
My parents, when they found out about the news, well, Jeremy had already told them, so they were a little bit prepared. Jeremy says that my mother cried, which isn't a surprise because we both do that on occasion. Every time we think about, if we've made a good choice, and how our families support our decisions to be together, we think about his grandfather and we think about my grandmother.
Nanny, I think, liked me a lot. I go over to her house.
He's Nanny approved.
Yeah, I've been Nanny approved, and she's been Pops approved. So he loved Sarah with all of his heart. Told me, "What a beautiful gal you got." And being from South Louisiana, that's kind of how it sounded. But I would go and watch basketball games with Nanny, and it was just very special. I'd like to thank my parents, first off, for being so supportive of me and her both through dating, through the thick and the thin, through the planning the wedding and me coming home not feeling very cheerful and being there to say, "Hey, everything will be better." So just big thank you for that and all they've done. And I want to personally thank Sarah's family for making me feel so comfortable being in a very large family that they have. I've never been to a gathering with like 50 people in a cabin and feel as comfortable as Miss Phyllis makes me feel. It's nothing better, I guess.
For Mom and Dad on our wedding day, probably the thing we'd most like to say would be just thank you, and we love you very much. They've really shaped us and molded us, excuse me, to get where we needed to be, and they've sacrificed so much for us through the years. But thank you in a word, and I love you. For Jeremy on our wedding day, I want him to know that I'm very excited about our future together. I know we will make it. I have no doubts that we'll have a very happy and fulfilled life together.
I love her. She's the my number one person in my life. I look forward to spending all my free time with her instead of half of it on the interstate and half of it, at her house or my house, wherever we are. Being able to wake up and the first thing I see is her, and the last thing I see is her.